Hello my darlings, my name is Mina. Welcome to my channel Mina Reads, and today we're going to be talking about all the books that I'm hoping to read in November. So we've got this little stack going, and I do have a few books that I don't own physically, but I do have on ebook or audiobook that I kind of want to read. So let's just run through them as quickly as we possibly can. So up first we have Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston, and I am reading this for a class. I'm taking a class called Text and Criticism, and it's like a really important class for my major so that I can finish up this degree, and I am going to be writing a research paper on this. Their Eyes Were Watching God is a 20th century black classic, and it is about a character named Janie, and it chronicles her throughout 3 different marriages in her life, and like basically her experiences in those marriages and outside of them, and how her community views her within these relationships. So I'm going to be reading this. I'm like almost done actually, but I'm going to be reading this and I have to write a huge paper on it, so wish me luck on that one. Alright, so up next we have For the Wolf by Hannah Whitten, and this is a fantasy romance. I want to say it might be more fantasy than romance, I'm not sure, but it is about this character who is the second daughter, and in this world the first daughter is for the throne and the second daughter is for the wolf, and so she is going to be sacrificed to this wolf monster that kind of lives in the woods and is the big bad, so to say, in this community. They all fear the wolf to a great extent, and so they sacrifice someone to him to appease his bloodlust, and this girl is going to be sacrificed to him. But she finds out that the wolf is not some scary monster, and he is actually just a man with magic and stuff like that. And so I think that this is going to be a fantasy romance, but I'm not too sure, and I kind of want to be surprised by it. And yeah, so this is going to be a buddy read with my bestie Erin. Hopefully we're going to love it. We'll see. Then I have La Petite Morte by Olivia Blake, and I definitely pronounced that wrong, I feel like, but I don't speak French, so I'm sorry. But this book is a little novella. It's very, very tiny, and it is about a character named Marissa who inherits a house in New Orleans from her grandmother, and once she gets there, she becomes embroiled in this kind of tangled web of supernatural creatures fighting each other. Basically, there is a vampire named Elizabeth and a warlock or a magician named Jack Saint Germain, and they're kind of on 2 opposite sides of this supernatural conflict, and Marissa sort of gets caught in the middle. And this just sounds really interesting. I have very much enjoyed everything that I've read by Olivia Blake so far. Masters of Death, one of my favorite books of the year, and I really enjoyed Atlas 6 last year, so I have very high hopes for this book, and I am praying that it's going to become a new favorite. And maybe it will solidify Olivia Blake as one of my favorite authors, but we'll have to see how that goes. Okay, so then we have Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, and so I tried to read this book a few years ago. I think in 2019 I tried to read it, and then I just never got around to finishing it. So I think the last time I tried to read it, I got like 60 pages in, and yeah, so my fervent hope is that I will start and finish it this month, because it is a dark academia. It seems like it'll be perfect for this season, you know, final season for me. We're getting into the colder fall winter months. It just seems like it'll be the right time for this sort of vibe, so I am hoping that I'm gonna love it. From what I understand about Ninth House, it is about this character named Alex Stern, and Alex, she's kind of a delinquent, and she gets plucked out of obscurity by these kind of mysterious benefactors who offer her a full ride scholarship to Yale University if she will monitor these secret society of magic users that exist on Yale's campus. And so this is all about her and her entanglement with these secret societies and the magic that they're doing. And I don't know, it just sounds really cool and really interesting. I'm hoping that this will be kind of the vibe that I'm looking for. I enjoy a good dark academia, but I haven't read too much yet, so I definitely need to get around to this one. So then we have River of Silver by S.A. Chakraborty. As you can see, I have already started it. I am about 50 pages into it, but this is a short story collection set in the world of the Daevabad trilogy, and the Daevabad trilogy is one of my favorite fantasy series of all time. So yeah, the Daevabad trilogy is about this character named Nahri who she gets swept away to this secret Jinn city, and she finds out that she's kind of like a lost princess, and etc, etc. I don't want to go too deeply into it because it's a whole very involved series, but I would highly recommend it if you are looking for a new fantasy trilogy to try. And I just can't wait to read this because I get to be reunited with some of my favorite characters, but we also get some sneak peeks into some stuff that happens prior to the events of the main series, and I'm just really loving it so far, so I'm hoping to finish it this month. But yeah, it's really great. S.A. Chakraborty has an amazing writing style, and I just love these characters. I love this world. And I'm just so happy to be back with her writing because there's something that's so comforting and whimsical about the way that she writes the world, but the story is also just so interesting, so much depth, so much complexity, and I just adore it. So S.A. Chakraborty, I love you. She has a lifelong fan in me, and yeah, I'm eating this up. It's amazing. All right, so then November is nonfiction November, so I do have 2 different nonfiction options that I may give a shot this month. So I have 3 Women by Lisa Taddeo, and this is a nonfiction story, but this is a nonfiction by this investigative journalist, which is basically about the sex lives of these 3 different American women. We have this one woman who was engaged in a relationship with a teacher when she was in high school, and then many years later she kind of comes out with her story about him. There is the story of a woman who is in like this kind of complex kink relationship with her husband, and her part of the narrative is supposed to kind of be about where is the line between her desire and her husband's, and how much is he kind of influencing her. And then we follow a housewife who is very unhappy in her marriage, and she begins an affair with someone else. So this sounds really interesting and very shocking and scandalous, and I'm kind of interested to see how this narrative is going to be told. It follows these 3 separate and entirely unconnected stories of these women, so I don't necessarily understand how the narrative, or not narrative, but you know, how the book exactly is going to be constructed, especially because the synopsis makes it sound a little bit like fictitious, like it is a story and it is a narrative rather than being a nonfiction. So I'm unsure about this one, but I will be giving it a shot. And then the other option that I have is, I don't know how I feel about saying this word, so I'm not going to say it, but it's going to be here on the screen. And this is Laura Jane Grace, the rock star from the rock band Against Me. This is her memoir, and I just really, really am so fascinated by Laura Jane Grace. And I recently read a nonfiction called The Sellout, which features the stories of a bunch of different rock bands, how they got their start, and how they made their major label debut. And Against Me was one of the bands that got talked about, and it really piqued my interest to learn more about Against Me as a band, and also Laura Jane Grace as this kind of out trans rock star. So I really want to read her memoir and see what she's all about. So yeah, I do want to read this one, and I do have it out from the library, so I need to get on that soon. We have Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan, and Before I Let Go is a second chance romance about this divorced couple, Yasmin and Josiah, I think is his name. Yeah, and so essentially they were very in love, but apparently love wasn't enough to save their marriage. What are their marriage troubles? I do not know, but the synopsis kind of says that love wasn't enough to build their marriage on. There was some kind of complications there, but they have settled into a rhythm as like loving co-parents, and this is kind of a story about them reconnecting and how they're sort of like magnets, and they just cannot help but being attracted to each other and coming back to each other. So I am really interested in seeing how this story is going to play out. I really love a good second chance romance, and Kennedy Ryan is an incredible author, so I can't wait to read another book by her. Real was one of my favorite romances at the beginning of 2022. I have very high hopes for this. I love the second chance romance trope. I really enjoyed Kennedy Ryan's writing style. I loved Real at the beginning of this year, so I have high hopes for this. Hopefully my hopes aren't too high. I don't want to, like, you know, set this book up for failure, but it just sounds really good. It sounds very perfect for me, so I can't wait to read this. And yeah, and then the final book on my TBR is going to be Fevered Star by Rebecca Roanhorse, the sequel to Black Sun. This is a fantasy series set in the pre-Columbian Americas about this character who is the chosen one, but rather than being chosen to kind of save the world, he's being chosen to end the world, and he is sort of imbued with the power of this crow god, and so he is trying to fulfill his destiny, and we see a bunch of characters who are kind of involved in that. there is a sun priestess named Naranpa who is kind of in opposition to the god that is imbuing this one character named Serapio. And there's a lot of religious tension in this society. There is a lot of stuff going on. It's really interesting. I can't like describe it all here in any kind of succinct way, but especially not without spoiling. But Fevered Star is the much anticipated by me sequel of that book. However, I haven't heard too many people talking about Fevered Star after its release, so I'm wondering like if people didn't like it or if they did like it and I just missed the hype train. Like, I don't know, but I feel like it had a lot of buzz before it came out, and then after it came out I heard nothing. So it's kind of time for me to get around to reading this, but I am scared. I am a little bit scared, I must admit. So yeah, that is going to be my overly ambitious TBR for the month. Let me know what you're going to be reading in November, and please wish me luck that I actually get around to reading and finishing these books. So thank you all so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in my next one. Bye, you guys.